conventional ballistic missiles. They have thousands of them. We've blown most of them up. You notice every week it gets a little less at us and at our allies. We've had some very good allies over there. We've had some very bad allies in NATO. I hope you're all watching that, Scott, because we had some asks. And, you know, we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. And when we need them, which we never do, we didn't need them here either. To be honest, I was really asking because I wanted to see what they do. We didn't need them. We blasted the hell out of them, out of Iran. And the last thing I needed was NATO stepping in our way, because they're a paper tiger. But, so we didn't need them, but I asked anyway. And they probably think I'm the worst salesman ever. I was the worst. They would have much preferred Franklin Graham or somebody that's a good salesman than Trump, because I'd say, we'd love to have some help. Oh, President, I'm not sure that we could. Oh, that's okay. You don't want to do it? Well, if we, oh, that's okay. You don't have to do it. So he gets off, probably says, man, that was easier than I thought. Then I call up France, Macron, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And he's still recovering from the right to the jaw. And I say, Emmanuel, we'd love to have some help in the Gulf, even though we're setting records and knocking out bad people and knocking out ballistic missiles. We'd love to have some help. If you could you please send ships immediately? No. We cannot do that, Donald. We can do that after the war is won. I said, no, I don't need after the war is won, Emmanuel. Many of them said, we'll be there after the war is completed. And so I learned about NATO. NATO won't be there if we ever have the big one. You know what I mean by the big one. We ever have the big one, hopefully we won't. Relationships very good with the big one, better than with NATO. But they won't be there. And we spend billions. You know, we didn't have to go into Ukraine. Ukraine's thousands of miles away across the ocean. We helped them. We had a president who's a stupid individual. Gave him $350 billion, got nothing for it. Gave him so much money, used so much ammunition. We're making ammunition all over the place because we need it, because he gave so much away to Ukraine. Got nothing for it. And I sell them ammunition. You know, the European Union pays for it. What the hell? They have to do something, right? So they're good for paying for it. But everything we sold, we did. But I just want to tell you, NATO treated us very badly, and you have to remember it, because they'll be treating us badly again if we ever need them, and hopefully we're never going to need them. I don't think we will need them. I don't think they can do very much. I actually asked UK, who should be our best. In fact, the King is coming over here in 2 weeks. He's a nice guy, King Charles, but should be our best, right, Brooke? But they weren't our best. I said, you have 2 old, broken-down aircraft carriers. You think you could send them over? Oh, I'll have to ask my team. I said, you're the Prime Minister. You don't have... No. I have to ask my team, President. My team has to meet. We're meeting next week. Oh, next week? But the war already started. Next week, it's not good. The war's going to be over in 3 days, my prediction, it turns out. By the way, do we have the greatest military ever? What? We have the greatest. So anyway, so we've knocked them for a loop. I don't know if you saw the explosion the other day. We got the mother load. We hit the mother load like nobody's ever. Did you see that? They thought it was a nuclear weapon, actually. I said, no, we don't use them. We don't want to use them. We have more than anybody else, but we don't want to use them. But this afternoon, I'm delighted to join the countless Christians across the country and around the world as we prepare to celebrate a thing called Happy Easter. Do we have that? Everyone happy? Anybody that doesn't want, hello, darling. Wow, this is a good table. I like that table. You're doing well, right? Okay. I think you should sue them, but, you know. I told her, you ought to sue some of these. They're so jealous of Erica. I said, you ought to sue their... I can say it. You're not allowed to say this. You have to be nicer. Sue their ass off. But I want to thank all of those who are helping us honor Holy Week here. Let me tell you, I hate to say this. There have been more wars over religion than trade and everything else put together. So he's smiling because I had, one nice little statement, then a nice, and you're right, it was sort of ironic, wasn't it? But it is true. Religion's an amazing subject of passion. It's a subject of passion, that's why. But I do want to thank all of those who are helping to honor us and honor Holy Week here at the White House. There's something so incredible happening, and I'm seeing it all over. I used to tell some of you, so I've had such great friends. Ralph knocked on 10 million doors. 10 million, right? 10 million. And knowing Ralph, I thought maybe he was exaggerating a little bit, and I had it checked out. I think it might have been more. You did a hell of a job. And with Charlie, right? What a team. That was an army. You, Charlie, the whole group, unbelievable. Now we got to do it for the midterms. Hate to tell you, otherwise they're going to take it all away. They're going to take the Johnson Act. They'll put it right back on your shoulders. So we got to do it again. But the White House, including Vice President J.D. Vance, I think J.D. is J.D. here? Where is J.D.? Yeah. Oh, J.D. He's lost weight. He got a little thinner, and I'm looking for a heavy set gentleman, and now I find a perfect looking specimen. He's doing a great job, and he's working on the deal, right? How's that moving? Is it okay? The big deal? You see it happening? So if it doesn't happen, I'm blaming J.D. Vance. If it does happen, I'm taking full credit. No, I think it'll be, I think it has to happen. I think they're desperate. Attorney General Pam, my friend, Pam Bondi. Hi, Pam. And we just left the Supreme Court. I didn't realize it's the first time in history that a president went to the Supreme Court. I was really surprised to hear that. And Supreme Court's not been acting very well, actually. It was today on birthright citizenship. How did it finish up? Who knows, right? That's the problem. You never know. You know with the Democrats, because a Democrat appointment always votes, no matter what. You could have the greatest case in history. You could have a case where the person you're suing admits they're guilty. And if you're in front of a Democrat judge, she'll overturn that admittance. Now, it's very unfair. And Republicans, judges and justices, they always want to show that they're independent. I don't care if Trump appointed me. I don't care if it doesn't make any difference to me. I'm voting against him because they want to show their independence. Stupid people. But the Democrats, you can have the greatest case in history, and they'll be voting against you every single time. And then they get upset with you when you complain about it. I get admonished a little bit. There is no Republican judge, and there is no Democrat judge, a certain person says. And I say, you've lost all credibility when you say that. It's really pretty tough. So Pam and I were over there with some people. We watched, and actually nobody knew what the hell was going on. Simple subject. It's look at the time. It was passed right at the end of the Civil War. It was for the babies of slaves. That's it. It wasn't for billionaire Chinese people who have 57 children that become American citizens. They didn't have that in mind. But, it's hard to explain that to some people. Secretary of Agriculture is doing a great job. Brooke Rollins, thank you very much. Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, just came onto the thing. So is the job easier than you thought? So I give him the job. He's so honored. He's very successful, made a lot of money. Then he decided to run, and he ran, won in Oklahoma. I love Oklahoma. I won 77 out of 77 counties. The only one to ever do all three times. I don't know why they like me so much in Oklahoma, but they do. And I was with him all the way. And I offered him this job, and he said, such a great honor. I didn't tell him what was going on, though. I didn't tell him that not only did you have a strike, and at the same time, you have the Democrats refusing to pay anybody, right? I said, welcome aboard. Oh, and here's your first assignment. So he said, would you like to have had that decision to make? No, think of it. Somebody leaves a senatorship where he could be there for many, many years, a great position, and he leaves it to take a 3-year job of turmoil because it's good for the country, right? And you're going to do great. And so far you've done great. He's gone in there and he's really, I think we're pretty well worked out on that situation that we're working on, which will be, if we can do that, it'll be great. But we're fighting people that vote against us 100%. Like, you never get, every once in a while you get Fetterman. They vote against us 100%. And, you know, when I see Franklin Graham over here, I was going to say something really. I was going to use a filthy, dirty, horrible word. But he wrote me a letter. Became quite a famous letter. And he said, President, he watched me make a speech, and it was great. 40, 50,000 people. He said, it's like Billy Graham. No, I'm not as good as Billy Graham. Nobody's Billy Graham. But I made a good speech. But he wrote me a letter, and I thought it would be a letter that, oh, what a job you did. That was unbelievable. Because, President, please, I love your speaking. I love your stories, but you'll use foul language. And if you didn't use bad words, very bad words, your speeches would be even better. And I sort of said, ooh, that's not what I expected, Jenny. But I never forgot it. And I purposely watch my language, especially when he's in the room. When he's in the room, I watch my language. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner. Thank you, Scott, very much. Good job. And Darth Vader. Where's Darth Vader? Russ vote. Where's Darth? Hi, Darth Vader. He's looking, he's finding more fraud. You know, if they figured out the fraud, because JD's working on it, JD's either going to be the greatest guy or we're going to hit him hard if he does it, because he's in charge. I put him in charge of fraud. Now, the last time this happened, Sleepy Joe, he put his great vice president in charge of the border. Hopefully, JD will be slightly more active. She never called the Border Patrol. She never made one call in 4 years to the Border Patrol, and she never visited the border. She had no idea where the border was. Other than that, I thought she did a very good job. We had 25 million people pour through our border, and they said, I need legislation to stop it. I said, no, you need a new president. And that's what happened. Now we have nobody coming in. We have 9 months of zero people. And we're getting the bad ones out, but Russ vote, thank you, Russ. You got to. We would have a balanced budget. If you could get, JD, if you'd get, how about in Minnesota? They come from Somalia, but they come from all over. They're all crooked in Minnesota. The governor's crooked. The attorney general's a crook. He's a thief. Terrible guy. All stupid, crooked people. And they came in from, in this case, Somalia is just terrible. A lot of people say it's the worst country anywhere in the world. They have no money, no nothing. They have no government. They have no police. They just shoot each other all day long. It's just pure bedlam. Probably the worst, most dangerous country. We have some beauties. They go to Minnesota, and they stole $19 billion. $19 billion. And they're low IQ. Generally, I mean, I can generalize. They're low IQ people. They're bad people. They have 94% unemployment. In other words, they don't want to work. You know, get a lot of jobs available, right, with the economy. They don't want to work. Why would they work? And they sold more Mercedes-Benzes than any state in the union because they come here with no money, and they go out, they love a Mercedes-Benz, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes. And I think you're going to get to the bottom of it real easy, and every one of them should be. And Ilhan Omar, who married her husband, married her brother became her husband. When she has to check a book, she says, any brothers? One. Any husband? One. She checks 2 people. So on top of everything else, she gets a double income tax cut. She's a stone cold crook, and everybody knows it. And the papers, they have one paper out in particular. The guy made a living writing about her, and I spoke to him. He said, but nobody does anything about it, sir. All you have to do is get his writings from the Indianapolis Star or whatever paper he works for. You don't even have to do anything. This guy spent 10 years investigating that crook, and you got to do something about it, or our people are going to get they're already upset. Takes too long. So JD, you go do it, and Russell, you better do it. And I said to Russell, I said, daycare centers, right? So in Minnesota and Los Angeles, they have thousands of them. You'd say, how could you have? They have more daycare centers than they have children. They literally, so they have thousands. So we go and we send inspectors out. Of the 700 that they looked at approximately in Minnesota, there were not one that was a daycare center. It's homes where they send checks for thousands of dollars. It's bad. And if they ever, and this has been going on for years, if they ever found out, if they ever got, and especially it really, look, in 4 years on autism, okay, children with autism in Minnesota, 4 years ago, Biden's first term, it was less than $1 million was sent out for autism. This last year, it was over $400 million. So what happened? I said, was there an attack of autism? They went from $1 million to 400 plus, and it's pure theft. And I hope we get to, and if we don't get to it with stupid people, because we can balance the budget. We can balance the budget. We can have a surplus if you can stop that. And that doesn't include Medicare, Medicaid. That's even bigger. And it's many states, probably Republican states too, because they're going to see it. And we're not as thievery, but they don't believe in thievery. But when they see the Democrats doing it, and then they have to compete with that, so I can't imagine they're not doing it. I just can't imagine. But maybe they aren't. I don't know. But those Los Angeles is out of control. California, all over California. Maine, who would have thought Maine? Maine's one of the worst. Maine, I think a beautiful Maine, it's one of the worst. And the purpose of me saying that is because I have people in the room that could do something about it. And if they do something, we have a great country, we have a balanced budget, because these are the kind of numbers. And I actually said to them, I said to Russell, don't send any money for daycare, because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. We have to guard the country. But all these little things, all these little scams that have taken place, you have to let states take care of them, Russell, and you have to do it. Linda McMahon, she's done such a great job. She's moved education back to the states. And you know what? You need congressional approval. I said, don't worry about it, just do it. She did it. They're largely back in the states. We have all these buildings empty, education buildings. Where is Linda? She's not here, right? But I'll tell you, let her know I said it. She's done it. She's a sleeper. She was such a great person when she was at Small Business Kelly. She did a great job. Before Kelly was doing a fantastic job. But Linda was great. And then I said, don't worry about it. Just move it back. And she's moving it back to the states where it belongs. Education belongs in the state, where the parents can help and they love their children, as opposed to some bureaucrat sitting in Washington that doesn't know where Iowa is. When you go back, let Iowa run and let all of these states, Indiana, let them run their education, 100%. The only thing we have to do is make sure they're teaching English, okay? Make sure they're teaching a little English. You have a little bit, I mean, literally you could do one office with one person, one desk, and a secretary. I don't mean a secretary of transportation. I mean a secretary, like, an old-fashioned secretary that takes dictation. But that's all you need. So education has been largely sent back to states. It's an incredible thing. You have to do the same thing, Russell. You have to do the same thing. Pastor Paula White and Jenny Korn are two incredible people. And they're from the White House Faith Office, which we never had. We never had a faith office. A lot of people wanted the office they're in, very valuable real estate. We're building a valuable piece of real estate right back here. We had a judge, not a judge, a judge. We had a Trump-hating judge give us things saying, I have to get approval from Congress. You believe it? I'm giving $400 million to build I'm giving with donors $400 million to build a ballroom. And there's the knockout panel right here. If you look back there, if you want to look back there, you'll see the deepest hole you've ever seen. But we are under construction. We're under budget. We're ahead of schedule. And we're building a ballroom anywhere, depending on final details of the marbles we pick and everything else, anywhere from $300 to $400 million, depending on finishes. You know, we can get real expensive, beautiful finishes, or we can use Home Depot tile. It makes about $100 million. It's going to be amazing. But we had a judge that ruled that we had to go back to Congress. In the history of this building, nobody's ever gone back when they build something here. That you don't go back to Congress. But we have a lot. I have a lot of unfriendly judges. Somehow we seem to get by them, but they're not good people. We're also grateful to be joined by Reverend Franklin Graham, who's been a friend of mine for a long time. Thank you, Franklin, very much. Appreciate it. Pastor Marilyn Rivera. Pastor. Hi, Marilyn. Thank you very much. Bishop Robert Barron, who's a fantastic man. Thank you very much. And then we have all of our stalwarts here. I mean, I don't have to name them because I've been naming them now for almost 10 years, right? Long time. But I appreciate it. You guys have been here from the beginning, and we appreciate it very much. It's been amazing. During each day of Holy Week, Christians remember the events of 2,000 years ago that forever changed the world. On Palm Sunday, Jesus entered Jerusalem as crowds welcomed him with praise, honoring him as king. They call me king now. Do you believe it? No king. I'm such a king, I can't get a ballroom approved. Pretty amazing, right? I'm a king. If I was a king, we'd be doing a lot more. I'm doing a lot, but I could be doing a lot more if I was a king. Yet he had not come to take a throne, but to carry a cross, not only to reign, but to save. And Thursday, the disciples gathered with Jesus as their teacher, stood in fear as he was arrested and betrayed. He was really betrayed. We know the feeling. Many of the people in this room know the feeling. Many of the people in this room went through hell. On Good Friday, the Son of God was nailed to the cross, crucified, and he died for all of us. It was a day of darkness, but it wasn't the end. By any means, it was not the end. On Easter Sunday, the stone was rolled away and the grave was empty. Christians everywhere rejoiced, and we continue to rejoice. Easter is one of the incredible days. It was the miracle in all of history, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was the great miracle, I guess, right? The great miracle. He told his followers, I am with you always, even to the end of the age, because of the events of Holy Week 20 centuries ago. People from every nation, language, and background can take on any difficulty, press through any trial, and endure any hardship. With Christ, not one thing can separate humanity from the powers of God's everlasting love. Across the generations, what happened on Easter has inspired his followers to love one another, to forgive, to do works of charity, and build the beautiful churches. And we have some of the most beautiful buildings in the world. To me, churches I love great architecture, and we have some of the most beautiful churches. Christians have opened schools, ministries, and hospitals on every continent to teach care and heal those in need, and they do it with love, and they do it with great affection. It was Christian devotion that inspired 102 pilgrims to sail on the Mayflower, settle the New World, and lay the foundations for America's motto, "In God We Trust," and we won't be changing that motto. You know, there are groups of people that motto is unacceptable. We don't deal with them. We cast them aside. There's no talking to these people. They're crazy. It'll never change, ever. If anybody ever let that change, I think they wouldn't be long for the world. I've often said that to be a great nation, you have to have religion. I believe that so strongly. You have to have religion. And you have to have God. That's why this Easter we are bringing back religion to America. When I started, if you think about it, so we went through 4 years of purgatory. I learned a lot, So you had 4 years, and you had 4 years. Now you have one. So it's a long time. It's 9 years, 10 years. But I learned a lot, and I've seen it. And if you say, what's been the most growing, we see NVIDIA, we see all of these companies that are doing records because of what we've done, but I think maybe the biggest up is religion, Christianity. It's been amazing. We had, when I first came, one of the first things, we will save Christmas. Because I wasn't told, I saw it all over, but department stores weren't used, they'd have the red wall, but it would never say Merry Christmas. They wouldn't say anything, or say Happy New Year, but they never talked about Christmas. And I said, we're going to bring back the word Christmas, so we did. We brought it back. That was the beginning of that, but do you remember that? They refused to say Christmas. Now, woke is gone. It's got to keep it gone. We had woke, we had transgender for everybody, we had men and women's sports. I work with the Olympic Committee to end that. We're not going to have it this Olympics. And you would think that's easy. I say, I would like to talk to you about men and women's sports. Sir, there's nothing much we can do about that. There's a lot you can do about it. Anyway, we met and they agreed to take it out, men and women's sports. So now a young lady in boxing doesn't have to have her face smashed in like in the last Olympics. Remember that? The young, beautiful Italian champion, boxer, female, she got up and she was so excited. And she met a young woman who transitioned from manhood. I'm getting better and better at my description of this because it's a little tough. It doesn't come easily. Things come very easily to me. That one's always a little tough. But he transitioned from manhood to womanhood, and he was a boxer, and he hit her with a left. Do you remember that? Just a left. Now, that's a defensive punch. Boom. Then another one. Boom. And she was ready to go. She walked back to the corner. She said, I've never been hit like that. And the corner said, go out. You can beat her. Go out. And they pushed her out. Then she got hit with another, just a jab. And she said, I quit. And that young woman that defeated her went on to win the Olympic gold rather easily, JD. And then you had two people in the ring that were transitioned. I don't know why it was only two. I mean, if I were a coach, I'd have a whole team of them. In fact, I actually said that under that system, I would be one of the greatest coaches in any sport anywhere in the world, in particular basketball. I'd love to have, I'd say remember Walter Still Chamberlain, 7'3", could lift 500 pounds. No, I would have the greatest team. Hello, Robert. I would have the greatest team in history. I would be undefeated for years. But I wouldn't have one. I'd pick 2 or 3, 4, 5. This would be crazy. The greatest are the weightlifting of them, because you can see it, right? A record that stood for 19 years, 212 pounds. That's a lot. Any woman in here can lift 212, I don't think so. 19 years, and then it happened. A young woman, who transitioned to womanhood, broke the record by 111 pounds. So for years, they'd have it at about 212, and they'd put 1/8 of an ounce here and 1/8 of an ounce. And they couldn't do it. They could not do it. And this guy came in who was a failed man weightlifter in his previous life. He was one of the worst of the men. He was a weightlifter, but he was not a good one. And he became a woman. Lovely event took place, and he was in a competition, and he broke the record. And I'll never forget it because I'm watching this. He's looking like, that's not a lot. Okay. The winner is, and the record still stands. I have a feeling maybe with evolution in 1,000,000 years, a woman will, you need a lot of evolution. You're going to go up by 1/8 of an ounce every century. But when you see that, or you see the swimming records where great women, all-American swimmers are swimming, and they've swum against themselves. You know, it's the pyramid, right? They've swum from the beginning because they were the best from the time they're 6 and 7 and 8, you know. And now, all of a sudden, people that transitioned are allowed to swim. And we had a case with a young woman. She was very badly hurt. She was really horribly hurt. She looked down, and it was a tryout for the Olympics, and she looked down one side, and she saw all her friends that she's been swimming against for 10 years, women, and then she looked down here, and she saw some more friends, and next to her was a woman that was massive. He had a wingspan that was slightly larger than Wilt, the stilt Chamberlain, which was serious. And they got into the pool, and they started swimming, and she was badly injured from windburn because he went by her so fast that she got tremendous burns from the wind as he went by. And then he came in largely ahead. In fact, I think he rested for about 20 minutes while they were swimming. And I said, isn't this ridiculous? Well, one of the greatest ever. They had all of the greatest track and field not that long ago, last year. And it's these all-day marathons, right? You know, we have to really be in shape. And if you can, you know, take 10 seconds, 5 seconds off, and a man who transitioned came in, and he won by 5 hours and 14 minutes. All top, 5 hours and 14 minutes. And then they say, oh, let's do it. This is Democrats. And they're still fighting for it. And I tell people, don't talk about it, don't fight it. Just start about 2 weeks before the election talk. Because if they ever change their policy, they stick together, they may be hard to beat. But let them have open borders. Let them have transgender mutilization of our children. They can keep doing that, transgender mutilization of our children. That's what it is. Let them have all of the things like the men playing in women's sport. Let them have, or how about open borders where they allow the world. So you're Christians, but you're very smart, and you have great common sense. And our country has come a long way in a short while. You know, I knew we were going to bring it back. And remember, we hit 50,000 on the Dow, and they said I wouldn't be able to do that in my first year. And I did it in my first few months. I mean, we did it early. They actually said it would take probably 4 years, but most likely it would be 5 or 6. And I did it at the end of the first year, actually. And then we had 7,000 on the Standard & Poor's, the S&P. So it was 7,000, and we did that in the first year, too. So we did 50,000 Dow, 50,000, and the Dow was impossible. But tougher was 7,000 on the S&P. Numbers, Robert, that they said were not attainable for years. Did them in the first year. I said, all right, you know, we've done so well. Now is time to go out and take out these lunatics in Iran that are trying to get a nuclear weapon. We sent in the B-2 bombers. We stopped them with that. But then we really put the clamps on, and we've been doing it. You've been watching that. It's been amazing. Our military is so amazing. I rebuilt the military in my first term. I didn't know I'd use it so much, because then you also have Venezuela, which they say was one of the most lethal, incredible attacks in the history of military, period, not just our military. It was a strong country, strong military. If you've ever been to Venezuela, they have soldiers all over. Everybody has a soldier's uniform on. They have tough soldiers. But it was all done in 45 minutes. The entire war was won in 45 minutes. We set a record. That's like a fighter gets knocked out in the first 3 seconds. And now we're working with Venezuela, and we're We've taken in many times the cost of the attack, many, many times. And we're working with them. It's like a joint venture, and we have tremendous amounts of oil. And we could do that with Iran very easily. We could just take their oil. But, I'm not sure that the people in our country have the patience to do that, which is unfortunate. They want to see it end. If we stayed there, I'd prefer just to take the oil. We could do it so easily. I would prefer that. But people in the country sort of say, just win. You're winning so big. Just win. Come home. And I'm okay with that, too, because we have a lot of oil between Venezuela and our oil. We're controlling now 59% of the oil in the world. And the problem that we have is we really don't need any more oil. It'd be nice to take it, but we don't need it. And we say to Europe and all these countries that do, China gets 90% of its oil from the Strait of Hormuz, and they should be policing their own strait. We shouldn't be policing it for them. We have been for years. And we're getting ready to get out of there. But they should, all the damages, we have done such a job that they're really a very weak country. They've gone from the bully of the Middle East to essentially a weak country. And I say, you guys, why should we? The problem with the strait is they can have one terrorist there with a machine gun someplace, and they'll say, oh, it's not totally clean, So let them do it. Let France do it.